and I like it.
Else, some other Flame Sanford might have been your last meeting.
I thought you were here.
I don't
In
think
June.
that.
You hadn't yet, oh, no, it
I've been
was,
to other meetings.
no, that's right, but you hadn't, right, it was Clotilde,
Clotilde.
whose name I misspelled, there's no H. All right, so,
So if we strike me, then I'm more than okay.
and in which paragraph?
New task force member, Flame Sanford. It doesn't matter.
Where? In
Uh,
which paragraph?
below introductions.
Ah, yes. Ah, okay, so we will amend the minutes accordingly, striking Clayton Sanford's name. But Clotilde, and spelling Clotilde, Dr. Clotilde Rodriguez's name correctly. Other than that, we can adopt the minutes.
I move that they be adopted.
Good, I second. All right, so I should start by sharing with, well, I guess it would be for Amir. But are you there, Amir?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, so both for Amir and Clayton, that the community board, Manhattan Community Board 9, same gender loving LGBTQ plus task force exists to advance the interests of the SGL-LBGTQ or same gender loving gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer community in West Harlem by creating a safe and welcoming environment, raising awareness of and conceiving responses to issues impacting the SGL-LBGTQ community in West Harlem, supporting SGL-LBGTQ businesses in West Harlem, and working to achieve racial and gender equity in West Harlem. And the task force is comprised of community board members, volunteers, and community members. With that, let's go around virtually and in person and introduce ourselves, shall we? I'm John Martin Green, chair of the task force, and I've been on the board, I guess, for about 6-7 years now. 7 years. Yeah, because I was, yes. And the task force was conceived as a function of work that Carmen Neely, brother named Manny Rivera and I did in Community Board 10 back in 2015, when we created the first same gender living LGBTQ task force in the history of New York City in Community Board 10. It was 2015, was it, Carmen?
Yes.
Yeah, and we created the task force in Community Board 10, and same gender loving folk here in Community Board 9 and in Community Board 12, Washington Heights, acknowledging or taking a nod or a page from that book, created the task force here and in 12, the following year in 2016. Okay, so we're gonna go, what is this? Clockwise. Mr. Franklin, will you introduce yourself, please? You're muted.
Hi, should I jump in, or was someone else going to introduce themselves? This is Amir speaking.
Hi, Amir.
Should I jump in?
Certainly.
Okay, great. Yeah, here's Disco, my dog. So I'm sorry again about having to be in the middle of this, but my name is Amir Sadeghi. I use he, him pronouns. This is my first year on Manhattan Community.
We just lost the signal. Can I get you to take minutes for us, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sanford.
I'm 3 for 3 on taking meetings.
Ah!
But, okay.
All right. So
Justice. Yes, I'm sorry.
we lost the signal with you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. So, were you able to hear the beginning of my introduction?
We heard your name.
Okay. Okay. So just my name. My name Amir Sadeghi. I use he, him pronouns. This is my first term on Manhattan Community Board 9. And I'm very excited to be on this task force. And it's actually very interesting, Chair, to hear the history of how these task force in these few community board districts were established over the last few years. My work is connected deeply to queer liberation. I'm the policy and advocacy manager at a national abolitionist legal and policy organization. And I work every day building coalition with people living with HIV across the country to end laws that criminalize people living with HIV. So much of my work over the last few years, and certainly my commitment professionally for the rest of my life, is rests in racial justice and ending laws and policies that discriminate against marginalized communities, including queer folks and the LGBTQ community. So I'm very excited to be here on this task force and bringing a little bit of the work I do around HIV justice into this space.
That's wonderful, Amir. With which organization do you work again?
So we're called CHLP. We're formally the Center for HIV Law and Policy, but we're kind of dropping the name and keeping the acronym because our work has broadened over the years beyond just discriminatory laws and policies that target people living with HIV, because of course, people living with viral hepatitis and other stigmatized diseases are criminalized and dehumanized as well. And especially, there's an important intersection in my work regarding sex workers living with HIV who are criminalized by these HIV-specific laws. So our work is broadened quite a bit, and so I work at my organization's name is CHLP.
Thank you and welcome. Yeah, that's exciting, good work that you're doing on behalf of community.
Wait, sorry, it's called HLP?
CHLP?
Oh, CHLP.
Mhm.
Yes, and though our website, Clayton, if you are, it looks like you're maybe taking notes. Our website is hivlawandpolicy.org. So our website still has our old name. And in just a moment, I'll actually be home now in a much more calmer environment on my computer. So thank you so much for your patience, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. And Mr. Franklin?
Hi, my
Hey.
name is Chad Franklin. I am the director at the Goddard Riverside Option Center during the day and the night. And in the evenings, I am the program director of the program committee, for the Gatekeepers Collective, which is a resiliency enhancement network for same gender loving men of color. And my pronouns are he, him, and me. And I think that's it.
Welcome, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you all.
You want to introduce yourself, Madison?
Okay. Hi all, my name is Madison. I'm the community associate for Manhattan Community Board number 9. I've been at this for, I want to say like 8 months now. For 8 months, since I recently graduated from Buffalo State University. I'm your point person liaison for the community board, so if you ever need to reach out to any of the co-chairs or a board member, you can always reach out to me and I'll be happy to help.
Thank you. Welcome, Madison.
Thank you.
And Mr. Senator.
Maybe a card.
Oh, Carmen Neely, yes, that's right, because your face, we don't see your beautiful face. I almost bypassed you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm off camera. I'm not feeling all that great, but my voice is still strong, so I'm joining via Zoom. But my name is Carmen Neely. I am the current president and CEO of Harlem Pride, and we do the Pride events throughout Harlem in June. And our big event is in Community Board 9 over on 12th Avenue. And we're from West 133rd Street to West 138th Street. And I'm glad to be here as part of the task force. Thank you.
Glad to have you as part of the task force. All right, so in the absence of, oh, yes.
Sorry, I'm Clayton, Clayton Sanford. I am a fourth year PhD student and student worker at Columbia University. So I study computer science and math. Also identify as gay in my, I'm the head of, am now formerly the head of the engineering LGBTQ affinity group, which I've recently passed on some other very good leaders. And I'm very excited to be in this club in part because Columbia has a lot of like LGBTQ student organizations and stuff, but they're very siloed off. You know, they're just mostly doing events with other Columbia students. So I think, you know, any way to help them get off campus and see a little more of the neighborhood might not be such a bad thing. But I'm also just excited to learn about all the valuable work you do and see how I can help out.
Wonderful. Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from California.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I moved here in 2019.
Okay. Good. Thank you so much, Clayton, for joining us. All right, in the absence of community members, public session, we can go straight to our community engagement and education screenings. The last of which we did this past spring at a restaurant in West Harlem, which is now defunct, Mark Miller's The Porch Harlem, where we screened a documentary, The Mask You Live In, and where we attracted about 30 people. And with support of Community Board 9, offered community members dinner, and the film followed by which we had a dialogue about the issues raised in the film, which treats on toxic masculinity and misogyny. It was well received, but we decided that, well, we didn't eat, it was beyond having decided. The restaurant no longer exists. Before he closed, Mark gave us to understand that he wouldn't be able to host more of our screenings at his venue because his patrons said that the information was a bit much. He said, we just wanted to have dinner. And you raising all of these issues, which are important, but it's a lot while we're trying to eat. So we just determined that because the screenings are effective, and effective means educating the community and building dialogue, bridging gaps and building dialogue and community across such perceived differences as exist among us on the sexuality and gender continuum, that we will continue doing. So along those lines, at our last meeting, someone raised the possibility of I think, the Lenfest Center here at Columbia. So I reached out to Ziad Ramadan, the executive director at WHDC, and asked if he could assist us in picking up a venue. Actually, the Lenfest auditorium seats 150, I think. So that's a little big for us. So he reached out to Phoebe at Columbia, who is looking at our request for a screening room in one of the Columbia facilities at which we can possibly do our next community education and engagement screening in October. Yeah. And in June, the last films we talked about as possibilities, and you guys can propose others as they occur to you. We talked about Marlon Riggs' Tongues Untied, Mariah, Daughters of the Dust, Kiki, Rafiki, A Litany for Survival, the life and work of Audre Lorde, The Celluloid Closet, and the one we landed on in June was, The Wound was another one. And Scotty Bowers and the Secret History of Hollywood was the one we landed on. People familiar with that film? Yeah, well, for people who particularly love film and are film aficionados, it's wonderful documentary on who is the television producer that produced Pose. King, was it?
Ryan Murphy.
Ryan Murphy. Ryan Murphy, thanks Carmen, produced a Netflix series, I think it was, called Hollywood, that was based on the secret history of Scotty Bowers and the secret history of Hollywood. It treats on this guy who actually lived, he only died last year or the year before last, who after the end of the Second World War got a job at a gas station in Hollywood where he became a procurer of men and women who did sex work with the stars, with queer, same gender loving stars in Hollywood for a generation or better. And so, you know, about people who people never would have thought, you know, were queer or gay. As it turns out, were devoutly so. So anyway, that's a film that we landed on, but have you guys any thoughts about films that might be educational and or just fun like that one? That might help us to, again, bridge gaps and build dialogue and community across perceived differences among us in West Harlem?
Sorry, Carmen, I see maybe you're also unmuted. Do you want to go first?
No, I was just putting, that's a thumbs up, not a hand raise. I'll take it down though. That was just to go along with the film he was talking about.
Yeah, no, I think this film sounds really interesting and I'm excited to be there for the screening. You know, maybe just one coming to mind, it being a film set in New York City, a documentary. I mean, I'm sure it's maybe everyone's already very well aware of this film, and maybe it was also the subject of a prior screening, but Paris is Burning, I think, is a documentary I very much like, but maybe that's a little rudimentary for the task force. I'm not sure.
There's no such thing as rudimentary. In point of fact, Paris is Burning is a great documentary that heralded the advent of what we have come to know as the mall community. Yeah, and Paris is Burning was from the 80s, was it not? Yeah, yeah, that's a great documentary. Okay, so we should add that one to the list.
Yeah, I've never seen it myself.
Ah,
It's embarrassing, should have seen it. But,
well,
I'd love to see it.
yeah, there's no should be. You ever seen it? You've seen it, Carmen.
Yes, I have certainly seen it.
You probably screamed it.
I'd like to suggest Tongues Untied, Marlon Riggs.
We've got that one. Tongues Untied, Pariah, Daughters of the Dust, Rafiki. Okay, yeah, Tongues Untied, we'll put it down again.
Okay, so, I missed that one then.
Okay. Good.
Moonlight then. Well, are we only looking at documentaries?
No.
Moonlight then, Moonlight.
Why not? One of my favorite films ever. Has everyone seen Moonlight here? Madison shakes her head woefully.
I don't watch movies, I watch TV.
Well, Moonlight is a great film. It was the first, and I predicted it before the awards were ever announced. When it came out, about 6-7 years ago. It was the first African-American film in history, written and directed, ever to win the best film Oscar. Yeah. Yeah. It was very powerful. So yeah, we should definitely have that down. Thank you. Who was that, Ms. Neely?
Yep.
She's my teacher. Well, she's one of my teachers. You're all my teachers. Okay. So any other thoughts about potential venues? I mean, we've reached out for assistance through the community benefits agreement for in-kind spaces at Columbia. And if anyone has any other thoughts about potential places where we can screen, we can do our film screenings and engage the community about the issues that we're using the films to raise among us.
John Martin,
Yes.
what did Zayat say about Linfest? What was the response? Because I'm finding that our organizations here in West Harlem are really having difficulty navigating this quote unquote community agreement.
Yes. And what he said, and I'm going to turn to my notes because I wrote it down, I think. He said that, in fact, he repeated what he told me last year this time, that WHDC has been navigating difficulty because they're supposed to be the conduit for Community Board 9 entities, organizations, accessing space within Columbia University facilities. And that it has been something of a quagmire, the bureaucratic process, navigating it. But he said, Phoebe, and I'm looking for her name, she got back to us actually today. So let me find that.
Okay, because I would like to ask if there's a way we can actually get a copy of it, this community agreement, so we can read it, because historically, whenever we've tried to do events in Linfest or the forum, we're met with either no response or the runaround. And it's almost like, do we really have a community agreement or do we not? Because if WHDC, who was originally tasked to be able to help manage it, if there really is no real agreement, then we can stop hoping for it. You know what I mean? Last year, we tried to hold our health and wellness summit at the forum and couldn't even get a response. It was ridiculous. So if there really isn't an agreement or one that's not going to be upheld, I would love for Columbia to inform us of what the actual reality of the situation is.
Columbia or WHDC?
Well, Columbia, because to my understanding, if there is in fact a community agreement, then they should be aware of what it says, because they're not following through on what we were informed years ago before they even started the construction on what it was supposed to say. You know, initially, I understand generally that the understanding was we would be able to use LinFest, its facilities, and the forum and its facilities for community events given by 501c3 nonprofits. And that hasn't been the case. Like I said, last year, we couldn't even, which was technically earlier this year, we couldn't even get a response from the forum. And then I had a contact that actually works in the forum, and even she couldn't get a response with regard to our concerns. And now you're getting this with regard to using LinFest. So I would really like to know, because it's not on WHDC as far as I know, although it was supposed to be between Columbia and WHDC and the organizations that are grant recipients of WHDC. But so far, having spoken to Ms. Castro and now hearing from Ziad, then there seems to be an agreement. If there is one, it's not being upheld. And what do we do to advocate for ourselves with regard to that? Every time we knock on the Columbia door, it's closed to us. So is there really an agreement? Is there not an agreement? If there is one, what does it say? Do we need to advocate for ourselves or just forget it and move on?
Your point is ever so well taken. I have, on behalf of both Blackberry Productions, my theater company, and the Gatekeepers Collection, which Chad mentioned earlier, attempted to access space at Columbia per the Community Benefits Agreement. So for the sake of clarity, space acquisition as a community benefit at Columbia University facilities, and not just the new ones like the Forum, but all Columbia University campus facilities, is part of the Community Benefits Agreement that was signed in May of 2009. And as part of, it was a $350 million agreement in cash and in-kind benefits. And among the in-kind benefits that were promised West Harlem by Columbia in order to get our consent for them to expand their campus here in West Harlem, was the promise that we could have access, that CEOs and nonprofits in West Harlem could have access to their different facilities for work that we were doing on behalf of West Harlem community. So, and it is the West Harlem Development Corporation that was created to administer the Community Benefits Agreement, including space access to Columbia University facilities, which is why it is on WHDC, because they are the conduit for access to the space. And Ziad and Joanna Castro's frustrations around access to those spaces continues. But where they left off with us, and I found the email, this person, Phoebe Sade, Phoebe Sade, what's her name? Phoebe Sade Arnold, asked in response to Ziad's outreach, are these events it to be sponsored by via WHDC in-kind budget? He answered yes. And he said, he offered a caveat, unless, of course, he said, Columbia is interested in co-sponsoring them. I thought that was a clever little. And I also answered, yes, they are within the purview of WHDC, community-based organizations. So that's where we are with Columbia. But again, if anybody has thoughts about other venues in the community that might be good spaces for us to continue our screenings, yeah, we should share them.
Do you want to get out of the office? Like that's what that's like the point?
So you're asking if we might want to do them in office, in-house here?
Yeah, like we have a projector and all that stuff. I don't know, I just like, is that the point, like you want to get out the office, like you wanna go out into the community rather than like come here next month and like do your screening?
Well, before I say anything, what do you think? What do you all think?
I mean, you know, if you do have trouble finding a place, like this is, we could always like set you up with the projector, because the TV is kind of small, but we have the projector is much larger. And then just set out the whole room how you want, and then if you want to get, I guess refreshments and light snacks and stuff, then that would be up to like, you know, your task force, but I would try that at least once. And then maybe if you wanna go out into the community more to get more, I guess, interaction, if that's what you wanna do.
Okay, so what do you all think? Does everyone hear Madison's proposal?
So I think it's fine, but I thought the screenings were larger than something that would fit in your room there. But I don't know. I really think we should press upon Columbia and WHDC about LimFest. It's a beautiful space. We're supposed to have access to it. And whatever the issue is, it'd be great if it can be ironed out, because we're not the only organizations that keep getting no response and really no movement with using that space. And there's nothing happening typically when you look at the calendar during the space, during the time frame we might want to use it. At least nothing's published on their website. So it's just a frustrating situation. Otherwise, I would say here in West Harlem, are there any restaurants that have a separate room area, or I don't know of any other typical kind of screening room space. Maybe the Broadway Housing Building, or maybe the Children's Museum may have some space that we could look at. But I don't know of a space on the west side here, like the Dwyer Cultural Center in Central Harlem, or a space like that where you could easily have a screening. So unless we can get space on City University's campus, perhaps. But or there is also the Gatehouse that might be too large, but I think they have a space other than their main space.
Yeah, a challenge with the Gatehouse, which is a beautiful space on City College campus, is that their fees are astronomical. But yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's CCNY, there are like the NAC building, there are spaces where they have screening rooms. But if we were going to do something like that, we might as well do it here with refreshments.
Just for a sense of scale, like how high is astronomical?
In the thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not talking about one. Yeah.
I don't wanna be throwing it around.
Yeah, so, but no, again, I'm all the way with you in terms of, experiencing frustration around the constipation, around our accessing this community benefit agreement of space at Columbia, sites. And, something else that you're reminding me that, Zia talked with me about as I was pressing for space, was the size of the groups. He said, because Glen Fest, he said, I think, 100, Glen Fest was something like $4,000. Another space he mentioned, I'm sorry? Another space he mentioned was $7,000. And so he said, if you're not talking, he said, what size group are you talking? I said, well, the last one that we did in the spring, we attracted 30-some people. So we're thinking about maybe 50 people, and he said, okay, with that, we can perhaps find a facility somewhere else on the campus where that size, a room that can accommodate that size group is more reasonable fit. So, yeah, okay.
I think Amir's is stand up.
Amir?
Yes, I just, I wanted to throw my support behind Carmen's sentiments. I think as much as I love the MCB9 space there and have attended in person in the past, I think the caliber and height of the cultural value of these films and what the kinds of discussion and dialogue that we would like to create with screening them, I think merits a better cultural venue like Lenfest. And I think given that there is this community agreement, we should, I think apply as much leverage as possible on Columbia that they honor this agreement. I guess I have a question in addition to this statement. Has the community board, and forgive me being so new to this community board, has the community board or this task force considered, or has it in the past, reaching out to the Councilmember Abreu, and seeing if his office can use their leverage in discussion with Columbia that they should have an obligation to provide space for the community for community events like this? Has the council member's office been engaged?
We
No.
did, because we try to do this for Pride, our health and wellness summit. We were trying to do it for Pride, and it was partially funded by West Harlem Development Corp. So we reached out to Councilmember Abreu's office, but by that time, we'd heard back from Ms. Castro, who was basically telling us it would be better if we looked elsewhere. So given the time frame of us running out of time, we didn't press the council member's office because, we spent about 2 months, 2.5 months, January, February into March. And, Pride is June, trying to get at least a response. Not one email response, nothing came from the forum's contact. And then I happened to run into Ms. Castro at an event, the Gatekeepers event, and we spoke about it, and she strongly suggested I just move on. So I did, but in the meantime, I did contact the council member's office, but didn't continue to press it because we really, just given the time, had to move on. So I would suggest that we reach back out because Council Member Abreu is very helpful. He's a great representative of our community, in my opinion.
I concur. I agree completely. Also, you remind me, Carmen, that last year this time in reaching out to Ziad Ramadan at West Harlem Development on behalf of the Gatekeepers Collective. We were looking for space at the Forum for our theatrical narrative development staged readings, which happened in November. And again, we ran into this obstacle, this quagmire, where we weren't able to access space, and we wound up doing our last staged readings of new one-act plays that the Gatekeepers Collective developed down at the Gay and Lesbian Center in the Village. So anyway, yes, but to your question, Amir, the task force hasn't reached out to council member Upgrade. So if that's a good idea, we can do that as well. Yes.
I'll just chime in and I'll say this is someone who's very often biased against Columbia from the inside, is that like this bureaucratic quagmire is how they operate in all areas. You know, like oftentimes students don't get paid on time. And the only way you get paid on time is you have to insist that you have to like go higher. You have to get your professors to complain on your behalf. So I think I want to make sure we get the benefits to CDA and that we don't have to, and that their stonewalling isn't effective. And like I would suspect that using tools like John Grader's office and things like that are probably one of the only ways we have to like speed things up. Just from my past experiences with them on the student worker union side of things, they can be very aggressive behind the scenes if you aren't careful.
I agree. That sounds like a great idea. In fact, that's something, so we should take a vote.
Yeah.
Should we reach out to Sean Abreu for support? Because that's something Ziad, in fact, you know, it has complained about in terms of there being, you know, and he represents WHDC, West Harlem Development Corps, which is responsible for providing access via the community benefits agreement to Columbia spaces. And he is frustrated. So, yeah. So who's in favor of, would somebody want to take a vote on reaching out to Councilmember Abreu? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I would put forward a motion to engage Councilmember Abreu's office on this matter. This is very important, and you know, I think I'm yes, I put a motion in favor.
I
I
will second
think
motion.
Or does that be?
Well, it has to be a member.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, all right. We've got, so we've got the motion by Amir and second by Clayton. Good. So we're gonna reach out to Councilmember Abreu to put pressure on Columbia.
The other thing that I'll add is that if a student group co-sponsorship would help, I could probably provide that. So I'm not sure if that will help things internally, but like if it would, I could talk to the group that I'm in and also talk to other groups, and I'm sure they'd be happy to co-sponsor the event and possibly could also contribute funding to it should that be necessary. The funding part I have to ask, but I'm pretty confident for sponsorship would be a very easy ask.
that would be
Co-sponsorship.
great. That would be great.
What do you guys think? Say it, so Amir is here, I think.
I was just mentioning that I could, if it would be helpful, I could probably also try to get some internal Columbia student groups to sponsor it. That'll increase the wheels a little bit. And like potentially also ask to get in funding, although that's not given.
I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Power is always excellent.
Say it again, Chad?
I said that's excellent. Student power is always excellent.
Yes. So language they understand.
Yes.
All right. Good. Next up, then, so we have a strategy. And I guess I will then, so who will reach out to Councilmember Abreu? Should I do it? Amir?
I'm very happy to, I've been in touch with his office actually very recently about an issue affecting a neighbor of mine. So, I'm very happy to reach out to the council member.
Terrific. Okay, terrific. And I will, and if you can let me know via email what happens with that, and I will keep the others of you abreast of such progress as we make otherwise along these lines with respect to plotting the next film screening. Yeah?
Yeah, and I'll get back to you shortly about the sponsorship, and then if you want, maybe you can pass that along to WHTC people or.
Absolutely.
If you want to close the loop.
Yes, by all means. Terrific.
Clayton, are you taking notes for this meeting? Is that okay? Did you capture, just so when I, for my email to the council member staff with whom I've been in touch, so I can accurately capture it's, Carmen was talking about this like back and forth that the community board has had with Columbia facilities trying to access space. Is some of that captured in the notes so I can use that for my email?
I have some of it, but nothing super specific. I can send you the notes later tonight, and you can see if that's enough. Or maybe Carmen could restate some of it and I can write it down more precisely.
Right. I mean, just say repeated outreach with no response is really a great summary.
Yeah. Right, and more than one organization we've cited during this meeting has navigated that issue with respect to in-kind Columbia University space access. Yeah. Okay, next up is.
Also important to highlight, Carmen, what you said, like, is there an agreement or not? Right, so you give the summary, but also let them know that we're not even sure that, I mean, we know there's an agreement, right? So, but that is it actually being upheld or not?
Right. And if they could provide the document so we can read it, because I've never actually seen it. I just know it's like this mysterious thing that supposedly exists.
It's online, the
Yeah,
community benefits agreement.
It's on our website.
It's on the Community Board 9 website.
Okay, so I'll research and pull it up, and I'll definitely read it because I need to adjust my expectations because they're being dashed against the rocks of my hope.
Yes, and furthermore. All right, next up is the formation of the Audrey Lorde Memorial Committee. And that has to do with whether or not we will establish a committee to commission and create a memorial to Audrey Lorde, who lived for many years in Carmen Neely's building, 626 Riverside Drive at West 139th Street, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I have spoken with Jennifer Lances at New York City Parks Department, and who is it? Ms. Birnbaum, who's the new Riverside Parks Conservancy Director, both of whom affirmed the idea, are pursuing the idea. But someone at our last meeting in June recommended that we reach out to architect and Harlem historian John Reddick about this initiative. He spearheaded the Ralph Ellison Memorial that is 15th Riverside, outside of Bowman, where Ralph Ellison lived. And so I reached out to John Reddick, who said that towards creating the Ralph Ellison Memorial. Are people familiar with it? It's the statue by Elizabeth Catlett of the Invisible Man, the Invisible Man statue on Riverside at 150th. Has everyone seen it? It's quite striking.
Other part of the park? Or-
It's on Riverside Drive.
Okay.
And yeah, and as you walk along the drive or along Broadway, looking west to the, downhill to the drive, you'll see the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
Well, it was John Reddick, again, architect and West Harlem, a Harlem historian, who was on the board of the West Harlem Local Development Corporation that seeded the West Harlem Development Corp. Who spearheaded the design and creation of that monument. He said that he would be happy to come and talk with us about the steps necessary to carry out the creation of a monument or a memorial to Audre Lorde. So if you guys are amenable to that, that's something we can do.
I think meeting with someone who's gone through this process and knows a lot about it sounds like a really great opportunity.
Okay, good, because it will require raising a lot of money, many hundreds of thousands of dollars. Very likely, yes? So he can come and talk with us about it. And if, so our meetings are, what is it, the fourth Tuesday, Madison?
Yeah.
Of the month, our next meeting is the 24th. So that's something else we need to, pardon, determine. If we're gonna do, whether or not we're gonna do our regular meeting on October 24th, which is the fourth Tuesday of next month, or do a film screening. Or if we want to do the film screening some other night, pending access to a venue.
You know, John Martin, something and task force members, something, you know, Giving Tuesday may be too soon for the fundraising, to begin fundraising for the statue, but you know, with my work, I rub elbows with funders and people in the LGBT organization kind of landscape. And the end of the year, Giving Tuesday, I think, is the first Tuesday of December. Oh, I'm sorry, Carmen, which one is it?
I think that is it, the first Tuesday, because it's usually around World AIDS Day.
Yes, yeah, right, which is a very big commemorative day in my field. So Giving Tuesday, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's too ambitious. I'm not exactly, just being so new, I'm not sure how quickly things move in this space, but Giving Tuesday could be something that we could use to our advantage for fundraising.
Sounds like a good idea to me. I suspect that how quickly things move depends on how quickly we move.
I guess my other question is when you're talking about funding, are you primarily thinking of private donations, or are you also are there potentially other public programs that we should also be considering?
Well, the Department of Cultural Affairs has an initiative called Percent for Art, among others, where they provide support for artists. Once an artist has been, there's a competition that has to be created, so where you attract potential artists. The committee would have to decide on what kind of memorial. It's gonna be a bust, a sculpture, something figurative or literal. And then you create a competition where artists vie for the commission to create whatever the memorial, whatever the committee decides the form the memorial should take, will be. Yeah,
What's the program called again?
percent for art,
Percent for art.
which is, Department of Cultural Affairs program that provides some funding for art projects, commissioned art projects that will dot the landscape of New York. That's one government entity that, off the top of my head, that might have something like this, but otherwise, yeah, it would be private and supported. But John Bennett can fill us in. They raised over $200,000 for the Elizabeth Cafe, and that was 20 years ago. Yeah, so 90s, late 90s dollars. Okay. Yeah, so we can decide whether or not, I guess pending our outreach about the film screenings and whether or not we want to do another one in October, if we don't think that's too soon. And it might be, because we need to do outreach to the community to market the event. So, yeah, I think we should look at, yeah, probably November.
For the film screening?
Probably. What do you think?
October for the meeting with the architect.
I think so. What do you guys think? Because we need time to market, to do audience development. Let's be simply by ourselves.
I think November is smart. Also, you know, I'm sure the gears in the council member's office are not the squeakiest and the fastest, because, you know, they're dealing with lots of issues in the community. So I think November makes a lot of sense for that reason, and for the reason you mentioned, John Martin, to, you know, make sure that flyers are shared and posted, and we can get a really great showing to come out.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So, old business. I think we've attended to old business. With respect to new business, there is, for our consideration, preparatory to our meeting next month, I'm holding here Community District Needs Survey. So, I'll read from it. Community District Needs Survey, public input. Contribute to your community board's submission for fiscal year 25. The community district needs submission cycle is underway, and your community board wants to hear your thoughts. As part of the annual community district needs statement, all community boards identify their top 3 pressing issues for that year, as well as their most important issues across 7 policy areas. Your community board is collecting input from the public on these issues and wants to hear your opinion on the district's top priorities. Community boards will submit their new district needs statements and budget requests by October 31st. And previous year's statements can be found, and they give us a website, communityprofiles.planning.nyc.gov, under each district's community boards tab. Therefore, I should say the deadline for all surveys is Tuesday, October 17th, by the close of business. So if we were going to submit requests as part of our district needs, our Community Board 9 district needs statement, we would need to determine what we wanted to fill voids on the landscape of our lives the same gender loving LGBTQ community, yeah? And those might be, I don't know, in the realm of economic development or health and human services or education. Any thoughts?
So I know one thing that you said was discussed earlier this year, which appears to not be moving right now, is a conversion of the hotel to housing for children. Is that right? I think I heard it stalled for now.
That, in fact, yeah, it had occurred to me, Maggie mentioned that, because we took it up in our meeting, Clayton and I took a meeting week before last with, council member Abreu. We talked, among other things, about, housing. And, I raised the issue of an initiative that we have been, advancing, last year and the year before last, around, the Honda Act, HONDA, which is an acronym for Housing Our Neighbors with Dignity, Act, under which we sought to, work with a community board nonprofit organization to acquire and repurpose commercial property that had been sitting dormant in West Harlem. The Ellington Hotel, which is on 111, I think between either Broadway and Riverside or between Broadway and Riverside. Yeah, 610 West 111th Street, I think. It was repurposed as though last year as emergency housing for women in need of temporary housing, women with children. And now, in the face of the refugee crisis, it had occurred to us, last spring, that this initiative might be a dead issue, at least for the moment. But having raised it with Councilmember Abreu, what was his response, Clayton?
Well, I think he was a lot talking about the other building. I don't think he indicated there's that much progress happening on this one, on the Ellington for now.
But he said it was the idea of repurposing, working with a nonprofit to acquire and repurpose a commercial property, repurpose it for as supportive housing for same gender loving LGBTQ youth and elders, was something that he could get behind, that his office could get behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, maybe we should put that back on the agenda.
Yeah, well, I also don't know, like, is that, I guess I was asking because I wasn't sure if that's the type of budgetary aspect.
Request, because we put it down under our district needs requests in previous district needs statements. I know going into the pandemic, but maybe one even since 2020. Okay.
Because maybe even though we don't have a direct path forward on it, maybe we still want to say, this is still a community need that we have. We still like to work towards something like this. And
Capital request for what, repurposing some?
I think, I don't quite know how the law works, so. That would be the city's purview.
Okay.
This is just.
We need to figure out how to frame it, the ask.
Yeah.
Capital request for supportive housing for LGBTQ elders and youth. Okay. Any other thoughts about potential? There are expense requests and capital requests. Expense requests refer to programming. Capital requests, of course, go to monies for brick and mortar projects.
If we wanted to do more movies and things like that in the future, we need to request that again as a regular expense.
Well, that's a request that we can make to the community board.
Okay, so that's currently funded by the community board. So we
Yes.
need that. Okay.
So, well, certainly the last one was, we got $600, I think, for the last one. So, and they, because of the success of the last one, they said that they were amenable. And that was under Valerie, with a new chair. Might suck his teeth and roll his eyes at us. No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. Victor. So I don't know if that would be in the district needs request. Something, a little research.
Yeah.
And,
I'll read last year's to try to get.
but education, with respect to education, I know, an ask that we put forward, a task force ask we put forward before, had to do with, Department of Education, in, this is District Council, is it 7?
7.
Yeah, District Council 7 schools, incorporating, St. John loving LGBTQ history as part of the curriculum in middle and high school. Yeah. So that's something we could look forward. We should look at the last district needs asks that we did. And if somebody shoots me an email reminding me, I'll find those and circulate them to you. So that if we decide that we want to include asks that help to fill the void of ways that exist on the landscape of our lives with funding from the city, we could craft some asks to be included in a district needs statement from the task force. Yeah? All right. All right, well, so that's new business. Anything else? If no other matters are pressing, can we hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Say,
I move that we adjourn.
And I second that motion.
yeah, then we should adjourn. We will adjourn, and I want to thank you, Amir and Clayton and Carmen and Chad and Madison for joining us. So we should be in touch over the next few weeks, both about our space acquisition at Columbia for our community engagement and education film screenings. And what was the other one? And I will forward previous task force district needs requests. Yeah?
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. And John Martin, would it be, a better practice if I write my draft email to the council member's office about,
No, I won't.
no, I'm sorry?
Wait,
Broke up.
yeah, the connection was bad. Say that again?
I was saying, John Martin, what if I write my email to the council member, but shoot you the draft just so you can okay it first? Does that sound, or should I just go?
I'm fine with that, or,
He's fine either way.
yeah.
Okay,
Whatever's good to you. I'm happy for you to run it by me, and I'm happy for you to advance the ball.
Okay, well, okay, well, that's good to know. I guess in the interest of time, I'll advance the ball and you know, I guess as they say, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So
I'm with you.
I was going to ask, are you also going to check with, John Bennett about next?
So thanks for asking. Should we book John Bennett for next month?
Yeah.
Yes, October 24th? Yeah. Okay, we will invite John Bennett to our next meeting. Oh yeah, John Reddick used to be on the board of Harlem Pride too. I remember that. Wasn't he, Carmen Neal?
Both of you were.
I was on the board too, that's right. I was on the board of the West Harlem Local Development Corp, which seated the West Harlem Development Corp.
Well, thank you all. I'm gonna go. This is almost 8 o'clock.
All right, thank you so much.
All right.
thank you.
See you next month.
I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay. Nice meeting you, Amir.
Likewise.
Nice meeting you, Amir, and the other young man.
Clayton.
Clayton.
And
Nice meeting
Clayton,
you.
yes. And Clayton, you're a student
Yes. Oh,
at Columbia?
yep.
Oh,
And
great.
PhD student last year.
Oh, what are you doing your doctorate in?
Math and computer science.
Great. We've got smart computer student power.
Excited to be of service.
Yes. Okay, good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, Chad. Thank you.